Let us apply some of what we have learned to understand logarithms. On the most basic level, how do we think about logarithms? So, it's basically a way to talk about exponentiation. So, if we have a number a and we raise it to the power b. So, typically we could take b to be a positive integer, or we could take it a negative integer, then a to the power minus b is 1 over a to the power b. So, using that you could compute negative powers, and if a to the power b is equal to c, then we say that log of c to the base a is equal to b. Now, with this kind of definition we can only talk about the log of c if c is actually some integer power of a. And I want to talk about see if we can find a function f which can be evaluated for any value of c. Let me give you an example of this. So, for example, what is log to the base 2 of 128? So, whatever this is, this definition here tells us that 2 to the power this thing should be 128. So, if you just think about it for a moment, you will see that 2 to the power 7 is equal to 128, and so log to the base 2 of 128 is equal to 7. Okay, so one of the features of this logarithm function is that suppose we have a to the power b is equal to c and a to the power say some other number b prime is equal to c prime. Then a to the power b into a to the power b prime is just the same as a to the power b plus b prime is equal to c c prime. So, what this is saying is that c c prime its log to the base a. This is b plus b prime, which is just log of c to the base a plus log of c prime to the base a. So, what log does is it converts multiplication into addition. So, we can turn this into a question in calculus. Let me formulate the question. Can we find a function f such that f of c c prime is equal to f of c plus f of c prime for all reasonable c and c prime. So, this is our quest, and let us see if we can use calculus to solve this problem. And so, we can answer this question by first asking, if we could find such a function, what would its derivative be? And so, let us try to compute its derivative. So, we have f of x plus h minus f of x by h. Now, this I can write as f of x into, so what we know about f is that it converts products into sum. So, when the argument of f we want it to be a product, but here it is a sum. So, let us turn this sum x plus h into a product, and I can do this by writing this as x into 1 plus h by x minus f of x by h. Now, this by the property of f that it converts products into sums, this will be f of x plus f of 1 plus h by x minus f of x divided by h, which I can write as, so these cancel out, and so this I can write as in well, it is just x by h f of 1 plus h by x into 1 over x. This x here was extra. Taking limit as h goes to 0 gives f prime of x is equal to the limit as h goes to 0 f of, now if I take this h over x and call it y, then we have limit as y goes to 0 f of 1 plus y by y. And now using the fact that f of 1 is 0, I can write it as f of 1 plus y minus f of 1 by y, and this is just the derivative of f at 1. Well, there is a 1 over x here. So, let us take this value of the derivative of f at 1 and just give it a name. So, let alpha be f prime of 1. Then what we get is f of 1 is equal to 0 and f prime of x is equal to alpha over x for all x wherever we are going to define this function. So, what this says is that we are looking for a function whose derivative is alpha over x. So, what we will do is we will just define it as the integral of alpha over x. So, define f of x to be integral 1 to x alpha over, I should not use the letter x here because it is the limit of the integral. So, a over t dt. Then by the fundamental theorem of calculus, it means that f prime of x is equal to alpha over x and f prime of 1 is equal to alpha. On what domain can we define this? Well, we can define this for all x positive, because if x is positive, then 1 over t is going to be a continuous function on the domain 1 to x. Now, there are two cases here. So, you can assume that x is greater than 1. If x is less than 1, then you would have to define this as integral from 1 to x, but x is greater than 1. So, we would write this as minus integral x to 1 alpha over t dt. And so, this function would take negative values for x less than 1 and positive values for x greater than 1. So, here we have this function which we have defined whose derivative at x is alpha over x and its derivative at 1 is alpha. So, let me summarize this discussion in the form of a theorem. And this theorem sort of characterizes the logarithm. So, suppose f is a function on the positive real numbers to r is a differentiable function such that firstly f of 1 is 0, Secondly, the derivative of f at 1 is alpha, and thirdly, it converts multiplication into addition. So, f of c c prime is equal to f of c plus f of c prime for all c and c prime in the positive real numbers. Then f of x must be given by this integral 1 to x alpha over t dt. Okay, so let us see how we can prove this theorem. So, the calculation that we just did, right, says that if f is a differentiable function satisfying these properties, what we must have is f prime x is equal to alpha over x. Okay. And so, let g of x be integral 1 over x alpha over t dt. I want to show that f of x is equal to g of x. Well, what we know is that g and f have the same value, and g prime of t equals f prime of t for all t between 0 and x. And so, what this means, so in an earlier lecture we saw that a function is determined by its derivative up to a constant, and so what this means is that f and g must be equal. Now, the way the theorem was stated, I had assumed that the functions are equal at the left end of the interval and then the derivatives are the same. It can also work for the right end. So, if you do this, we are defining this as an integral from 1 to x. So, if you take that theorem literally, it is going to say that f of x is equal to g of x for all x greater than 1, for all x greater than or equal to 1, but it also holds for x strictly between 0 and 1 for all x greater than 0. So, I will leave it as an exercise for you to figure out how to handle the case when x is between 0 and 1. So, one of the most common logarithms that we use, so any function of this kind we can call it a logarithm, and one of the most common logarithms that we use is called the natural logarithm. Note that all these logarithm functions that we have defined, they are just determined by the constant alpha, they are just a multiples of each other. So, if we take alpha equals 1, we get this function ln x equals integral from 1 to x 1 over t dt. This is the case where alpha equals 1, and obviously we have that log of 1 is equal to 0. Also we can say that log of so let's just draw this graph of this function. So, we have the x axis, the y axis, and we let us say this is 1, and this function is equal to 1 at 1, at 2 it is about half, at 3 it is 1/3, 4 it is 1/4. Let us draw a few points on the y axis. So, again at here at half it is 2, at 1/3 it is 3, at 1/4 it is 4. So, if you try to draw the graph of this function, it is a hyperbola. So, what it looks like is something like this. And what we are trying to compute is, say we have a point x over here, then to compute the value of this function, we are computing the area under this graph between 1 and x. This area here is ln of x, and if x were between 0 and 1, then we would compute it as, so suppose we had x between 0 and 1, then the log of x would be the negative of this area. So, this is how you can geometrically think of the log. Now, here is a question, is there how much does the log grow? Does it grow? How does it grow as x goes to infinity? So, in effect what we are asking is, suppose I were to take the log and I am taking some large value of x. So, x is out here and I want to take a large value of x. So, how big is log of x going to be? And so, one thing we could try to do is, since we are trying to see how big it could be, we could, if we wanted to show that it is very large, we could show that it is larger than something that is already very large. So, let us use our idea of Riemann integral, the area under the curve as approximated by segments. So, suppose I want to compute log of 4, right. So, let us look at that, log of 4, let us try to find a lower bound for it. So, log of 4 is the area under this curve between here and here. So, we could find a lower bound for this area by looking at the lower Riemann sum. Now, the height of this first square is the value on the right over here. So, this is this height here is half, this height here is 1/3, this height here is 1/4. So, if we compute the sum of the areas of these rectangles, we get log of 4 is greater than or equal to half plus 1/3 plus 1/4, and this is certainly greater than this is certainly greater than 1. Okay, so, we have this function, a continuous function, and its value at 1 is 0 and its value at 4 is greater than 1. So, by the intermediate value theorem, there exists a number E that lies between 1 and 4 such that log of E is equal to 1. So, the question, to what base is this natural log? So, suppose this natural log is log to the base A. Then what we know is that natural log of E, which is log to the base A of E, is equal to 1. And what this means is, this is the same as saying that A to the power 1 is equal to E, but A to the power 1 is just A. So, A is equal to E. So, what we have is that natural log is just log to the base of this magic number E. This E is stands for the mathematician Euler, and it is sometimes called Euler's constant.